create a web page using a text editor and HTML. So what is a text editor anyway? Well, it just creates plain text documents, and that's what an HTML document is. And it is required for our class to use a text editor. So which text editor should you use? Well, with Windows, a free text editor is Notepad, and with Mac, it's TextEdit. And both of those are free and come with the operating systems. Sometimes students want to use Microsoft Word and just copy the text they create in Word into Notepad or TextEdit. And that really causes problems. You can get goofy symbols that show up on your page. Even though Word has a save as an HTML page, it puts in these extra tags and broken tags, and the file size is huge because Word puts in extra content that is not seen, it's behind the scenes. So we don't want to use Word and not a different text editor. So for Notepad, it's this Notepad here, just the single word Notepad, nothing else after it. This is a requirement of the course. So we'll avoid using Word because that causes problems, and won't use a different text editor either. So why HTML to create a web page? Well, computers use HTML to communicate with each other and the internet, and that is done through HTML, also known as Hypertext Markup Language. Most people simply call it HTML, but this is what it means, HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. So hypertext, it's all about clicking. So you've been on the internet before, you see something, your mouse is over it, you click, and you go somewhere else, to a different page, to a different graphic, information on the page you're on, a different page of the site, a completely different site. So how does this work? Well, hypertext, or HTML, creates the page structure. It determines when the web page starts, when the web page ends, and what's in between. And it does that through markup tags. And the markup tags are read by the browser, which then reads the tags and translates that into a web page. So every time your browser goes to a website, behind the scenes it's looking at the HTML, and then it is translating that and putting it on the page for you to see. So I'm assuming you would like to see some tags. Well, we'll start with the very first tag. And this first tag tells the web page, hey, I'm an HTML page. So I'm an HTML page, that's what this tag is all about. This tag tells the browser this is the beginning of the page, and the pair here, the second one, tells the browser this is the end of the page. And you'll notice that there are brackets around the HTML tag. So this is an HTML tag with a bracket before and after, another one before and after, and it has. So a little bit more on tags before we actually jump in and create something. Many tags are paired. So you have an opening tag. We saw this just a moment ago. So we just have the angle bracket HTML and then the closing bracket angle bracket, that's the opening tag. Next we have the closing tag, and the way your browser can tell the difference between the two is this slash symbol right here. So again, that slash identifies the closing tag. So opening and closing tag, this is the pair. So just to recap, we use a text editor to create HTML. We enter tags that create the web page structure, and we use opening and closing tags that are the angle brackets. And the way we identify the closing tag is with the slash symbol. So now we're ready to create a simple web page. One of the simplest ways to create a web page is to create the tags together. So you make sure that you have that opening and beginning tag. I'm going to start with the first tag that is required, and that's the doctype HTML tag, beginning and ending angle brackets, and notice this is an exclamation mark. I made this a little larger so it's easier to see. The next thing we need to enter is the HTML tag. I'm going to press the Enter key and then type in. I've typed the first HTML tag. Next I need to type in the closing tag. You may be thinking, well, that's a really small web page. There's nothing that's going to be there. Well, you'll see in a moment why this is a preferred way. So I have the opening tag and the ending tag. Now in between that opening and ending tag, we have other tags. For instance, the title tag. As you can see here, I'm going to press the Enter key and enter the closing tag. So now I have HTML opening tag, closing tag. I have the title opening tag and the title closing tag. And you might be wondering what is the deal with this title tag. Well, let's just type something in. Okay, above the title, I'm going to type in the head tag, and after my title, I'm going to put in the closing head tag. Now what follows the last head tag, the closing tag, will be the content of the page, what your visitors will see, and that needs to be in the between the tags called body. So it's the body of the document. Let's put in our angle brackets. I've already put in the opening tag. Now here is the closing tag. And now I'm ready for some text. I'll press the Enter key to make some room. Now you can press the Enter key as often as you want for it, and it won't show up on your page. Right now, I just want to identify the text that's in between the body opening tag and the body closing tag. Now here's something that's new, H2. What that means is H2 refers to heading 2, and it's going to change the size of my text on my page. So it has an opening tag. We also need to have, as you know, a closing tag. And it looks just like the opening, but it has that slash at the very beginning. Now, if you want a paragraph, or to separate that first line, welcome to my first web page, and then have another line, that is a different tag, and it is P for paragraph. And I'm sure you're saying to yourself, okay, I need to close up that tag, and you're absolutely right. So let's do it. Now, this is the very first simple file. I'm going to click on File and Save As. Now, one thing you need to know is that this file should not be saved as a text file. It should be saved as all files, which you can almost see on the screen. Now you can type in everything that you need for your page. So I'm going to type in my first, and for the extension, the last part of the file name is HTML. And now I'm going to save it. So let's take a look at that first web page. Here is the file, the name, and it ends in HTML. I'm going to double click on it. And here it is. So here's a tab on my browser and it says my first web page. Welcome to my first web page, and this is my first paragraph. Let's take a look one more time at that HTML that we typed in. So the title of my first web page, that's what showed up on the browser tab. And after body, this is the text that appeared. So just to recap, we use this tag here to tell the browser, hey, I'm a web page. Then HTML opening, HTML closing. Inside the head, opening and closing, we have the title, which is my first web page. Welcome to my first web page is underneath the first body tag. The H2 makes this text larger. The paragraph tags give me a new paragraph. The body closes the content that shows on the page. And again, this is the final HTML tag. I hope this has been helpful in understanding a little bit about HTML and how simple it is to create a simple page. Bye for now.